ahead and see how it works.
Okay, okay. Okay, so welcome everybody, and good evening all of you. Thanks for joining for today's session. Now, the title of the session is Emotional Capital. Again, if you look at this title sounds a bit different, because what word commonly we hear is emotional intelligence. So where does emotional capital stands? So before we come to that, just a few things which I wanted to state here. I would like to start with an article that was, that really caught my attention. Somewhere it was around 10 years ago. So it's almost a decade old news. This, this article was actually talking about, so here's the title of that article, that people are hired because of technical skills and are fired because of behavioral skills. Now that's how it read. Okay. Of course, the article carried out about, most of the times when people are fired in the organizations or any such cases they have happened, hardly, very minuscule percentages because the person was not technically fit. Okay. The reasons are more related to the behavior of the person, and that what causes that particular event. Okay. And therefore, that is where I say that yes, definitely we have been hearing about IQ and EQ, where IQ is nothing but the intelligent quotient. So it is mostly directly proportional to the marks you get, the results which are shown, your college degree and all those things, percentages. Now that kind of gives the measure of the IQ. However, it is EQ. Okay, can you please talk a bit slower? There is a delay echoing. Is there an echo? Okay, sure. Okay, so let me try without headphones and just give me a feedback if it is okay or not. Am I audible now?
Much better, actually.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. So I will do it without the headphone. So, so yes, IQ versus EQ, lot of debate has been there at different levels. But frankly speaking, when it goes to career success or success as a manager, as a leader in the companies, EQ has largely played a bigger role. In fact, what has happened is, even if you look at recent leadership concepts, like we hear about servant leadership, we hear about concept that today's leaders should lead with empathy. Now most of these concepts, even if you look at it, they are largely attributed to how a leader will be good at emotional intelligence. Okay, and that's where the importance of emotional intelligence always comes in. Okay, so again, so I would like to more start with what emotional intelligence as a definition means. Okay, so a very straightforward definition about emotional intelligence would be like this: the ability of a person to understand his own feelings so that he can manage himself better, and the ability to recognize the feelings of others, whether it's team, whether it's colleagues, or whatever it is, so that he is able to manage emotions in the relationships. Okay, so there are two things. One, ability to manage emotions of himself or herself, so that self-management is in place. And the second part is the ability to manage emotions of others, or not manage, basically recognize emotions of others, so that the team management, colleague management, etc. becomes easy. So that's what Daniel Goleman's definition of emotional intelligence is. Okay, now the question is like this, that the word emotional capital actually arises from, now this word has been coined by Martin Newman, back in 2007, this word was coined for the first time. Okay. He said like this, that, you know, if leaders or managers are good at emotional intelligence, then the value which they create, okay, and the social skills which they have in order to influence others becomes a reason for a person to be successful in his or her role. Okay, so emotional capital is nothing but emotional intelligence in leadership. Okay, and therefore we say that people who have good high levels of emotional capital, they are emotional capitalist in a sense, that way. Now, when we are discussing this whole emotional intelligence, of course, the question comes, you know, can I improve on it or not? Something like that, because it is related to a behavior. Scientific studies have shown that when it comes to intelligent quotient, it increases along with our age, but somewhere between 18 to 22 of your years of your age, it actually flattens. Okay, so beyond that, it doesn't improve. It remains where it is, whatever IQ has been achieved. It can be different for different people. But survey shows or study shows that emotional intelligence keeps on increasing along with the age. It keeps, okay, it peaks somewhere in the 40s, somewhere in the 50s, it peaks till that age, and it will slightly taper down. So that's a good news. Can emotional intelligence increase? Yes, it increases with age, with experience. Of course, people understand what's good, what's bad. They have their own learnings, and therefore they improve for their future experiences. So they do it. Okay. So, but so, you know, it's jokingly it is said that can you change your behavior? Yes. Is it easy? No, it's not. Why? Because of course it's difficult to change yourself, because it needs that self-discipline. Okay, saying I need to change and actually passing through that change are two different things. So is it difficult? Yes. But is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible. Okay, with self-discipline it's possible. Now, emotional intelligence or emotional capital largely has been categorized into 10 different what you say capacities. What I will do is I will share with you one slide. Okay, let me share you that, and we will go through that one by one. Okay, here it is. So I hope everybody can see the slide. Now, what you look at it is nothing but, you know, any concept when it is broken into points sounds very easy to understand, and that is where this also comes in. Now, if you look at this slide, in this slide there are 5 points, and each of them have been broken further into 1, 2, or 3 parts. And if you look at those broken up pieces, they total up to 10 different pieces. However, what I want here is to make it clear that we can divide this into 2 parts. One is like this. So if you look at the top 2 things, self-awareness and self-management, everything written under that is nothing but the capacity to manage himself or herself. Okay, so capacity to manage self is nothing but self-awareness and self-management, and whatever category are stated under it. However, the capacity to manage or the capacity to recognize feelings in others, now that has been categorized into the point which have been on the left and right, which is nothing but social awareness and social skills. So self-management is nothing but self-awareness and self-management, whereas social management is nothing but social awareness and social skills. Okay, so, and of course we will come at the end, the point which is at the bottom, that's adaptability or flexibility, in addition optimism and self-actualization. So we'll come to that afterwards. So let's start with the first part, and the first part is nothing but self-management. Okay, so when we say self-management, actually what does that mean? There are 2 things which are given under that: self-awareness and assertiveness. Okay, so self-awareness is basically the ability of the person to understand his own feelings, his own emotions. Okay, so for example, if I get upset, Okay, so getting upset, getting angry, of course, that's natural. But when I'm going towards that stage, am I aware that this is what is happening with my emotions? The more you are aware, the more you are able to manage it, the more you are able to control it, the more you are able to regulate it. That is what is needed. Okay, so self-awareness is nothing but the capacity to manage my own emotions. That's number one thing. Second is like how much you know about yourself. In fact, we carry out one exercise in case of self-awareness. We carry one exercise, and that exercise is something like this. And maybe this is one what you can try it at your place. If I ask each one of you, okay, I'm not going to do this activity. I just leave it to that. But keeping in mind the time we have, I will just try to tell you what is that activity. You can try it at home. Okay. If I say that talk 9 things about yourself, talk 9 good things about yourself. Okay. Can you talk 9 good things about yourself in 2 minutes or 3 minutes max? Try it out. Okay. It will basically give a window into how much we are aware about our own qualities. Okay. So after self-awareness, why self-awareness is important? Because the more you will become self-aware, provided you know about your emotional awareness, provided you are able to understand where your behavior is going towards. Secondly, whenever you are communicating, how much you are aware of your non-verbal part of the communication. And we all know, in communication, we say that what we talk is basically maybe 5 to 10%, but our body language becomes more than 80%, and your tone of voice is the remaining 10%. So the percentages can vary, whatever it is, but the major percentage is the body language, the way you talk. Okay. And that the way you talk will be much depending upon how much self-aware you are. So self-awareness is very important because it leads to how much you are emotionally aware, how much you are aware of your own behavior, and how much aware of are you about your non-verbal communication, which is your body language, or how you are presenting yourself, how you're talking. Once this is done, let's go to the right side. Okay, the second part is assertiveness. What exactly means assertiveness? Okay, a lot has been spoken about that you need to be assertive. Okay, now when you say assertiveness is basically, now there are 2-3 points where if you combine, you say that your behavior is an assertive behavior or your personality is an assertive personality. Point number 1, very, very major thing is that you should never be don't ever judge anybody. Okay, judging anybody, the moment we come across an unknown person, or moment we come across a new person the first time, okay, now this is what happens automatically. We look at the way the person looks, the dress and all those things, etc., the style, and then we judge that this person might be something like that. Okay, judgment most of the times might be wrong, and therefore we normally say that please do not get into judgment. Okay, so however the person looks, whatever it is, don't make any judgments, because those judgments might lead to wrong communication, or they might lead to communication mistakes. Okay. Can I request everybody to mute, please, those who have not done up till now?
Sunil sir, your mic has got muted.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Okay. So first is, don't get into judging people. The second part of being assertive is that, no matter to whom you're talking, see that, you treat people as equal. Okay, because the one thing which is common, whether you are talking to a person which is a level below or you are talking to a person which is level above, the common thing is you all three are human beings. Okay. And when you treat everybody with equality, automatically your tone of voice is the same, whether you're talking to a VP of a company, whether you're talking to your manager, whether you're talking to your team member, whether you're talking to a person who comes to collect garbage at your house. Okay, so your tone of the voice should be similar. Okay, now that comes only when you start looking at people, perceiving people as equals, irrespective of which strata they belong to. Okay, so that needs to be taken care of. Now, so one is treating people as equals, looking them as equals. Second is not judging. Okay, third is like this, that, you know, if you want to put any point, the moment you look at other person as equal, just like you are a person who will have some strengths as well as some weaknesses. Similarly, the person who is in front of you is also like you yourself, that he also has certain strengths and weaknesses. And when you treat everybody as equal, automatically what happens is you generate that ability to speak clearly, concisely, whatever points you want to present in a meeting, in a forum, you present it. But when you present it, at the same time, you also respect the views of others. Now that's called as being straightforward. Okay, but when you know, there is a difference between straightforwardness and aggressiveness. In aggressiveness, what you say is that this is what I say and I don't agree to anybody else. That's aggressiveness. But this is what I say, this is what I feel. But at the same time, I also respect everybody's opinion. That's straightforwardness. So understand the difference between straightforwardness and aggressiveness. And straightforwardness is nothing but part and parcel of being assertive. So once we have talked about what self-aware means and what assertiveness means, now let's go to what is on the right side under self-management. Okay, now under self-management, we have three: self-control, self-confidence, and self-reliance. So let's see what self-control. So I think self-control, the name itself is indicating what does it means. Yes, you know, control yourself. Normally we say that you need to control your emotions, you need to control your behavior. I think control would probably not be a proper word. Instead of that, you need to regulate your emotions. You need to regulate your behavior. Okay, emotions are going to be there. You are going to feel happy at some point of, you are going to feel sad at some time. So emotions are going to go here, you know, here and there. Regulating them is what is important. Okay, so in self-control, that is what is expected, that you need to regulate yourselves. But always remember, self-control will only happen when you are aware of your own emotions. Okay, so basically you need to be calm, you need to be disciplined, which will actually help you in self-control. What happens if there is no self-control? Well, there are ample examples. I think all of you know the very famous episode which happened between Harbhajan and Srishant in the second or third season of IPL, if I'm able to recollect properly. Something happened between these two players, something Srishant told to Harbhajan. But what happened in that 30-40 seconds, but God knows, but what people in the whole stadium saw was Harbhajan slapped Srishant. Okay, so something which he might have told Srishant, which was enough to push the buttons of Harbhajan, and Harbhajan lost his cool and he ended up slapping. Remember, today when anybody remembers, do you know Harbhajan? They say yes. What do you know about him? This is what is the first thing they remember. So his image, the way he is looked upon, has completely taken a beating because of that act which he did for that maybe some seconds or so. Even if you go beyond that, in one of the football semi-final matches, I am sure much of you might be able to recall Zinedine Zidane, okay, who is basically a famous football player, a role model for many youngsters in Europe. But in one of the matches, yes, one of the players from opposite teams said something to him. He went and hit with his head on his chest. That player actually fell to the ground and he had to be taken on the stretcher. The result was Zidane was showed red card. He was taken out of that field. The more bigger result was his team lost the World Cup. What I mean to say is like this, that you know what, some seconds of not having control have resulted in people's career getting hit, people's image getting hit. Not worth it. Okay, so self-control is very, very one of the necessary things which we all should have. The next one, which I would, and again, another, while speaking about self-control, I would like to give an example. And this was an article somewhere in Times of India that a company wanted to recruit a CEO. And out of all the candidates which have applied, finally they had zeroed down to 2 candidates. They found that these 2 candidates were equally, they were equal. It was very difficult for them to select which one to go for. Okay. And since they were not able to zero in on one of the candidates, ultimately they decided that why don't we do one thing? Let us call both of them for one more interview round. Maybe we'll be able to find out some difference. Now what happened? Guess what? So of course it was a CEO interview. So the company had sent their car to pick up both people from 2 different places. Now when one of this CEO candidate, okay, when he sat in the car, and the company driver was there, he was driving it. Now it was a rainy season, there were traffic jams, road conditions were not good, so the driver was driving slowly. But sensing that the interview time was coming closer and closer, and sensing that I might not be able to reach interview on time, this fellow started getting anxious, and his anxiety started showing on his face. Ultimately, it started coming out as a behavior. So he started pestering the driver. Jaldi chalo, jaldi chalo. The driver saying, "Sir, मैं क्या करूं? There is so much traffic in front. You can see that." नहीं नहीं यार, कुछ तो करो. The driver said in between that, क्या मैं दूसरे रास्ते से लेके जाऊं? मुझे पता है थोड़ा देर लगेगा, लेकिन उधर कोई ट्रैफिक नहीं होता है. Then he started shouting, नहीं नहीं, what are you doing? कुछ दूसरा रास्ता मत ले लो, गड़बड़ कर दोगे. आप jaldi chalo. So in short, what I want to say is like this, that as the interview timing was approaching, this fellow had no control over his anxiety. So he started, talking all nonsense with the driver. The driver was getting irritated. However, he could not do much, because he understood the scenario. Well, they reached the company. It was late, not that much appreciable, but the driver was so pissed off that after reaching, of course, the candidate, he ran away into the building. For him, interview time was more important. But this driver went to the security cabin and started complaining. ये कौन सा साहब है यार, किसको मेरे को पिकअप करने के लिए भेजा था, इसको बात करने की तमीज नहीं है, कुछ भी बात करता है वगैरह, मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगा, मुझे बहुत बुरा लगा, etc etc. So he was trying to speak with this. Now guess what? Apparently at that same time, the chief security officer happened to be in that security cabin. He overheard these things, and when he overheard these things, since it was a behavioral matter, he called up the chief human resource officer. And when HR officer heard this, HR officer just said to his colleagues, "I think we know which candidate we have to select." Okay, so see what happens. The way we behave sometimes, where does it goes, and what might be the impact? Okay, a person who cannot manage his own behavior, who cannot manage his own anxiety in such a simple situation, how will he be able to manage if tomorrow the company is in problems? Will he be able to manage it? Okay, so that's the importance of self-control, why we need to have. The second is self-confidence. Self-confidence comes actually from 2 things. One, first of all, love yourself. Be confident about yourself. There's nothing wrong in me. And second, be good at what you do. Okay, so those 2 things, when they combine, that's where self-confidence comes in. Okay, so first of all, have confidence in yourself, love yourself, there's nothing wrong with you, you are very much okay as a person. And second is, better be good at whatever you do. And that's why we normally say, right, choose the job which you like. There's an idiom, right? Choose the job you love and you never have to work a single day in your life, something like that. So that's about self-confidence. Let me go to self-reliance, because that's again a very, very important thing. Self-reliance is nothing but the ability of a person to be good at decision making. Okay, because this is one of the very, very important quality for a leader, for a manager, for a supervisor, whatever you say. Decision making is a very important quality. Going for that right judgment is a very important quality. Okay, not only that, since nobody knows at the time of decision making whether this is going to manifest into a right decision or a wrong decision. Right or wrong is nothing but it's always in the aftermath, not not before. Okay, so what happens is taking the best call for the judgment. That is the quality. And owning up the result of that decision, whatever happens because of that, good or bad, owning up that responsibility, that a person having that quality is called as a self-reliant person. So self-reliance is nothing but the ability to take decisions, own up the result of those decisions, makes the person self-reliant. This is very important. So these are very, very self-directed persons. Okay. In fact, so, you know, people who are self-reliant, mostly they have a growth mindset. I'm sure, you know, right now there are these words being coined, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. You know, if a person says, अरे नहीं यार, आज तक ये काम ऐसे ही होता है, ऐसे ही होता रहेगा, इसमें कुछ चेंज नहीं हो सकता वगैरह, this is a tone of a fixed mindset. A growth mindset will see, let's try something else, let's try to do things differently. Okay, so whether a challenge is looked upon an obstacle or whether the challenge is looked upon opportunity, that depends upon who is the person, what is the mindset of the person. A fixed mindset will always look it as a challenge, he will give up. A growth mindset will always look up that as an opportunity and see what best can be done with it. Okay, so we need people, especially self-reliant people, they are more towards the growth mindset. In fact, I would like to give you an example here. Late until 1950s, even in the medical journal, it was written that you know, it is not possible to run a mile under 4 minutes. Okay, and since it was written in the medical journal, so anybody who would have read it, oh man, this is, yeah, I think that's right. You know, it's not possible to run a mile under 4 minutes. You know, even before trying, fine. Jo likha hai, I think that is it. However, until the time, I think 1953 or 54, I don't really recall exactly. But there was this one person called as Roger Bannister. When he read this, he said that, why don't I try this? Okay, let me try. What will happen at the most? I might fail or whatever it is, but I need to try. Now, what happened was, surprisingly, when Roger Bannister tried to run a distance of 1 mile, he was able to cover a distance of 1 mile under 4 minutes. He was able to do that. Okay. And the moment he did this, of course, you know, he became an overnight celebrity, chased by the reporters. His photos came in newspapers and magazines because he was the first person to do something which was against something which was written in the medical journal at that time. Okay. Now, but remember, when this news came, immediately there were many other people who gave it a try and they became successful. But the reality is like this. Today people know Roger Bannister, but people don't know who were those others who were also able to achieve that feat. The reason is like this, that it was Roger Bannister who actually challenged that status quo. Okay. And that is where I say that these self-reliant person, they mostly also have the mindset of challenging the status quo. Okay, do not ever be in a fixed mindset. That's not something we all want to be in. So that's one thing. The second one, which I want to also try to say here, I think again somebody's mic is not in a mute. There is another story about why we have a fixed mindset. Okay, remember, the mindset which each one of us carry is the resultant of you know, we have come from different backgrounds, from different geographies, of different faiths, of different religions. Our upbringing has been different, our experiences have been different, and the collective sum of all these things is responsible for our mindset, whatever we carry. Okay. I would just like to kind of give an analogy here about the story of a baby elephant. A baby elephant tries to run here and there. Just to control him, what the mahout does is he ties his leg, one of the legs, with a chain, and the strength of the chain is enough to ensure that the baby elephant would not be able to break it. Now the baby elephant keeps on trying to break that chain. He tries to do it day after day, week after week, month after month. And after giving a try for so much amount of time, finally he comes to the conclusion that I can't break it. Okay. As years pass down, when this baby elephant grows into a young youth, most of the time, the mahout does not take care to change the chain. The only reason being that at this age, the elephant is sure that he can break many other things. But the moment you ask him to break that chain, oh, don't tell me that, you know what, I've tried a lot. I can't do it. Okay. Just to give an analogy, what fixed mindset can cause a person. So that's about self-reliance. So we have covered the two parts which are at the top two, which is self-awareness and self-management. So both of these together collectively talk about how can you manage yourself. Okay. And always remember, if you're good at, if you're good at self-control, self-reliance, it always helps you to basically, withstand the daily pressures. It helps you to take decisions with ease. It helps you to carry yourself, have a good body composure because of your confidence or because of your assertiveness and so on. So those are very important points. Now let's go to the other two. After self-management, let us go to social management. How will you manage, not really manage, how will you recognize feelings of others so that you are able to better manage relationship between you and whoever that other is, your colleague, your boss, your teammate, whoever they are. Okay. Now there are actually two things, social awareness and social skills, which you can see on the screen. And under that, basically empathy and relationship skills. Let me talk about empathy first. Because empathy today, if you look at many articles on leadership or many blogs or white papers written on leadership, this word stands out in almost every article. They say lead with empathy and all those things. So empathy is of all the qualities, rather we would put empathy as the number one quality. Anybody who aspires or is a manager or a leader, whatever. The question, what is empathy? Empathy is basically that ability to see the world from others' eyes. Or in very easy terms, when we say that, put yourself in others' shoes and then see what happens. Empathy is that. Okay. Can you, if you are talking to a person, if you are talking to another person, do you have the ability to see the world through the eyes and ears of that other person? Okay. His emotions, his feelings. The more you have the ability to understand that will decide how empathetic you are. And in order to have empathy, the number one quality which a person needs to have is how good listener is he. Okay, so listening skills basically have a direct impact on how empathetic you will be. Okay, you need to be very good at your listening skills. And we all know many people listen to reply, not to understand. But here what is required is you need to listen to understand. And let me tell you, with determination, try this, that whenever you are speaking with other person, if you are really involved in what he is speaking, and if you are really involved in the understanding, no matter how your sitting posture was before the discussion started, but you will notice that, as you get more and more involved, you slightly get inclined towards that person whom you are speaking to, because you start getting more and more involved in his or her story about what that front person is speaking. Okay, so listening skills is very important, because the more you are able to understand the front person's emotions and feelings, the better you will be able to manage relationship between you and the front person. The better you will be able to deal with that front person. The very straightforward example would be like this, that when we watch cricket match, it is very easy to say that Sachin should have played like this, Ganguly should have played like this, and all those things, why foolish mistakes they are doing. But imagine if you were asked to go and play there, it would have been a totally different scenario. So that's what empathy is. It's easy to say, but very tough when you actually you find yourself in that situation. Okay, and that you will be able to imagine that only when you are able to catch that emotions and feelings. You're able to sense those emotions and feelings of other person. So that's empathy. The other part which I would like to talk about, of course, is a relationship skill. Okay. Again, I don't think, we need to emphasize about the importance of this relationship skill, or what we call it as networking skills. Yeah, so someone has written into the chat box, like, what's the difference between empathy and sympathy? Okay, so very good question. So remember, sympathy is when we feel sorry for something, for someone. A very straightforward example of sympathy is that, let's say there is, your close relatives' death has happened, or in your neighborhood or something like that. So you go, you talk to that person, and it's sympathy. What you show is the sympathy at that time. It is just, yes, whatever has happened, it's a sad thing. I know, you might be passing through, this is a tough time for you. You really cannot do much about it. That's sympathy. Okay. Empathy is, so let me give you a very basic example. Okay. A day-to-day life example. Let's say where you stay, in your neighborhood, there is a family who has a child who is in 12th standard. Okay. And 12th standard is a very important year for every student. And the child has taken, he's under very much tension. In fact, his parents are really worried about why he's so tense. Okay, they are worried that it would affect his health. So let's imagine that parents come to you and they tell that, what, our son is in 12th standard, his exam is just about 2 weeks away, but he's so much tense, we are very worried about his health. Can you talk to him and, just see that, you can reduce his tension or something like that? So they are requesting you. And you say, okay, fine. So, send him to me, I will talk to him. So here is a 12th standard student, very tensed, exam is just 2 weeks away. He has come to your house, he's standing in front of you. Okay. Now let's say if you approach him like this, okay, scenario 1. Hey, I have heard that you are taking too much tension. Don't worry, yaar. It's okay. See, we have also gone through that, right? Hota hai, sab kuch theek ho jayega. You just talk like that. Now imagine when you're talking like that, there is no empathy. You have just taken it lightly. You have never ever understood what that child's feelings, emotions he is undergoing through. No way. Now, if you really want to talk to this child with empathy, this is how you will go. Even before coming to in front of that child, first you yourself imagine when you were of that age and when you were in 12th standard, imagine what you were passing through. If you are really able to feel those days, you will come under tension. You will really be able to understand what it is to be in 12th standard exam 2 weeks away. And now with this mindset, if you go to in front of that student, in front of the child, how will you talk? Probably like this. You know what? The moment I saw you, I remembered my days when I was in 12th standard. Exactly like that. I know it happens. We become very tense because we are worried about what will happen and all those things. But let me tell you what I did. Maybe you might take some example. I saw that exam is only 2 weeks away. So rather than wasting time, let us give our best. So read as much as possible. Try to study as much as possible. And also one more thing I will tell you. It will happen that moment you go to the exam, when the question paper comes in, you might feel that everything is blank. But as you read questions, as you start, putting your time, things automatically start. You start recovering. You start remembering all those things, etc. So now when you are talking like this, look at the difference. Look at the difference you are talking in these two things. Because now when you are talking to that child, you have actually put yourself into the shoes of that child. And now you are actually talking sense with him. Okay, definitely this will help that child. At least when he will go with some thought. He will give less attention to the tension and more attention to what you have said. And there are high chances that he will follow your advice. That is what I meant by empathy. In your team, your teammates will come and ask you suggestions from you, because you are a manager or a leader, whoever you are. You are a role model for your team. They keep on observing day in, day out, just like kids observe their parents day in, day out. Your teammates will observe you day in, day out, your every action. And that will decide how effective a manager you are or how successful a leader you are. So that's very, very important. Okay. So I hope everybody would have understood the empathy, meaning of empathy, because it really helps. You know, people come with different problems, etc. The reason why you're senior is they expect that you need to have answers from their point of view. You just cannot just say like this. So remember, in your company or whenever you are speaking to anybody, if somebody comes to speak to you, you have to speak with them only when you have time to listen to them. You cannot say that somebody comes in and you says that यार मैं कुछ काम कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है तू बात कर, मैं सुन रहा हूँ, ये थोड़ा मैं काम कंप्लीट करता हूँ. Never ever do that. We cannot multitask. We can do one task at a time. We cannot do 3-4 tasks at the same time. Okay, let's accept that. And therefore, what happens is when you have given a time to a person, see that you give time to that person. Okay, it's his time you have committed, and better stand true to that commitment what you have given. Okay, so that's all about empathy. Now let's come to the remaining important skill, social skill, which is relationship skill. Very, 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 very important. As you grow up the career ladder, remember your growth doesn't depend upon your individual performance, what you are doing. I'm sure in companies, because this is what I've experienced in my work life, that you know, a particular level above, your promotion doesn't depend upon, you know, what you have done and accolades and all those things. You know, because what happens is there is a CEO with his team sitting and they are talking about, we need to choose our talent pipeline. Who are the potentials of our talent pipelines? So the names are thrown and everybody's view is asked about that name. So what do you think about this person? So what do you think about this person? Everybody is asked to talk about that person. Okay. How will you make sure that your name, people advocate for you? How do you make sure that? And this is where the importance of relationship skills come in. Okay. You need to create relationships. So if you are in the production department, you need to have relationship with HR departments. You need to have relationship with quality assurance department. You need to have relationship with research, R&D. Okay, you cannot say, "Arey, kaam nahi padta hai, kya fayda?" No, you can't say that. Well, you can lead your life. Of course, you are the owner of your life, so you can lead that. But you need to be ready to accept what comes with it. But if you really want to grow as a successful person, you want to really have that career as a success, networking skill, relationship skill is again a very, very important quality. The more relationships you have across the departments, within your departments, the more advocates you actually develop, so that anybody is asked about you, you are ensuring that there are people who will talk good about you. Now, again, how to develop relationship skill? Let me give a very normal example which happens in your house. Okay, maybe that example will give you a peek into what it takes to develop a relationship. So let's say you're sitting in the house, okay, you're a young chap and it's a Diwali season. And what happens is that, you know, maybe your niece or, you know, some of your long distance relative of your similar age, he comes to your house or you call him, you know, invite to your house. Let's have some sweets, let's have some tea, and you know, let's just chit chat. And that fellow comes to your house. Okay, so both of you are sitting across each other. You know, your mom serves tea and some sweets, and you know, you start chit chatting. Now, remember this one very important thing. Listen very carefully. You love cricket. Okay. Now, since cricket is your passion, okay, and remember, the person who has come to you, that person is not interested in cricket. Cricket is not his passion. His passion is Bollywood. Okay, he is very interested about movies and all those things. But the moment he has come to your house, now since you are interested in cricket and you know everything about cricket under the sun, it's but natural for you to start talking about cricket. Okay, it comes very naturally. Hey, did you see the World Cup match last month? You know, they did not play properly. You know, they would have done this, that, and you start talking. And you go on and on and on and on and on. Okay, there's no end to it. And by the way, remember, in a conversation, if one person is doing all the talking all the time, there is a problem in that conversation. Better sense it early. So what happens is like this. So the person in front of you, basically, he is not interested in cricket, and that's never his interest. For him, India loses or wins, doesn't matter. But now he has no choice because he has come to your place. So he has to listen to you. He has to bear with you. At the end of the day, after half an hour, the tea ends, the sweets are finished, and both of them, okay, fine, it's time to leave. And then you say that, you know what, bada maza aaya yaar, bahut maza aaya baat karne mein वगैरह. Okay, thank you for coming. Now, imagine this person now goes away. After 1 week, if you give him a call, अरे भाई साहब क्या कर रहे हो? अगर टाइम है तो आ जाओ, गप्पे शप्पे लड़ाएंगे, चाय वगैरह पे. Can you come? What do you think this person will answer? Okay, so this person, if he's a submissive personality, he will say नहीं यार बहुत कोशिश किया लेकिन टाइम नहीं यार, सच में बहुत काम है. If he's a very aggressive person, he will say नहीं सर अभी टाइम नहीं है, मैं नहीं आ सकता. Basically, what went wrong? Tell me. You did not do any mistake. You did not do anything on purpose. But what went wrong was like this, that you did not keep the interest of the front person in mind. You did not keep the interest of that front person. Always remember. In fact, let me give an example. I normally I would have done that activity, but here I'm sure, I know there are around 69 people sitting here. If I ask each one of you a question, what is your hobby? What is your hobby? What is your hobby? Okay. Now let's say if the first person says my hobby is photography. Okay. Let's say my first person answers that my hobby is photography. Then the second says something else. Third person says something. And let's say the 12th person says my hobby is photography. Let me tell you, the first and the 12th person will start looking at each other. Probably after this training, they will try to get in touch with each other. You know why? Because they both of them saw, ye mere type ka hai. It happens. It matters. In relationship, it is not about what you want. In relationship, it is all about what others want. Develop a genuine interest in other person. Talk about likes and dislikes of other person. It's more about him, not about you. Try doing this. You will see that your relationship gets developed. It flourishes. In fact, in diplomatic circles, they try doing that. Okay. For example, diplomats, because they keep on meeting the person mostly for the first time, but they ensure that they want to know everything about that person whom they are going to meet before they meet that person. Why? Because they want to ensure that they don't say something which the front person doesn't like or front person hates, something like that. So they ensure that. Okay. So that is about relationship skill, which I would like to say, very, very important quality. The next one are about the three things. Is like flexibility. Flexibility means, yes, you need to be flexible. You need to be accustomed to, you need to change based upon the changing conditions. Okay. Because we cannot be, I know we all want a very systematic world. We all want a very certain world. Okay. But yes, today's world is very different. I'm sure you might have heard of this term VUCA, VUCA, which talks about today's world is very different. Today's world is V for volatile, U for uncertainty, okay, C for complex, and A for ambiguous. This is how today's world is. Okay, so there are many changes going to come. Corona is the fantastic example of change which we are currently passing through. Okay, so based upon what happens, we need to have that ability to change ourselves in order to fit into the new world. That's flexibility. Then comes optimism. No need to talk about this. Optimism is like this. How do you see the world? Whether you see the world as glass half filled or whether you see the world as glass half empty. That would decide whether you have an optimistic mindset or you have a pessimistic mindset. Okay. Just to say here that, there's a short story about two salesmen from a shoe-making company, shoe, chappal, sandal making company. They are sent to the African desert in order to see the business prospects there. When the two salesmen go there, they see that, you know, nobody wears chappals, nobody wears sandals. Okay, everybody is walking without, you know. So looking at this, one of the salesmen calls up the head office and says that, you know, what kind of a place you have sent me here? Nobody wears chappals. There's no habit of wearing chappals. I don't think there is any business going to happen here. Okay, I'm coming back. Whereas the other person, he says, you know what? He calls up the head office and says, hey, ample opportunity. Nobody has chappals. Nobody has sandals. We have very high probability of doing large amount of business here. So it is nothing but talking about how do you look at every situation. You look at it optimistic, you will find opportunities. If you are pessimistic, there will be more troubles in the store. And that's what is expected out of a leader. Have an optimistic mindset, have a growth mindset. And the last one is self-actualization. Well, self-actualization, this word itself is nothing but it is at the top of the Maslow's theory. So if I'm sure many of you might recall the Maslow's pyramid, self-actualization is at the top of it. Okay. Remember, you know, these are the people who actually know how to balance their work and life very well. Okay. They are very good at work-life balance. They are very passionate about what they do. And that is something which is expected out of every leader. Okay. If you are passionate, you will automatically put, you are not, it's not necessary to tell you, you will automatically give your 100% to whatever you try to do it. And that's what is expected out of a leader. So self-actualization is another factor. So all in all, these are the 10 things which are expected out of a leader. Okay, the top two are self-management, self-awareness, assertiveness, self-control, self-confidence, and self-reliance. Social management is empathy and relationship skill. And the three additional qualities which are required are flexibility, optimism, and self-actualization. A person who has all these capacities inbuilt, we say he is a person who is emotionally competent or high in emotional intelligence, and therefore high probability of success in carrying out his duty as a leader, as a manager, whatever position he is holding in an organization. So this is where what I wanted to explain you about emotional capital, which is nothing but emotional intelligence from a leadership perspective, from a managerial perspective. I had to talk. If I would like to just invite a few questions. In this case, hope you have understood this, these points. If there is any clarification or any view you want to express, you are welcomed. You can, for that person, you can unmute yourself, speak about it, and then you can mute. I can have the answer for that. Anyone, please.
Hi, I'm Anil. Hi, I'm Anil.
Manish or Anil?
Hello.
Anil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anil, speak. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Go ahead, Anil.
So what is the difference between emotional quotient and emotional leadership? I mean the emotional intelligence and how that can be capitalized, say for depositing and withdrawing concept. Am I audible?
You are audible, Anil, but your voice was kind of breaking, so I was not able to get it exactly.
I am saying in emotional intelligence, there is an emotional quotient also, right? So there are emotional deposits and emotional withdrawal also. In leadership, how that can be utilized, rather explored. And most of the time now, there is a very silver lining difference. Instead of using exploring, there is a so-called manipulation, which has happened mostly in marketing and sales. Even in training also, it has come to the very refined level. So would you little bit put some light on that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So Anil, first of all, there are many words being coined. Okay, so emotional intelligence, emotional capital. You just now said emotional leadership, emotional withdrawal, emotional deposit. See, end of the day, what we are talking about managing our own emotions. To put it in a very, very simple word, okay, we can use all possible terminologies. Okay, and new terminologies will keep on coming. End of the day, it is what makes a person successful. Okay, how far a person is able to manage his or her own emotions, and how far a person is able to manage others. Now, in order to manage others, you need to manage relationship, and in order to manage relationship, you need to be aware about other people's emotions. The more a person gets better at it, the more the person is able to do his duties. Now, the question you gave about manipulation. Okay, so see, look, what happens is like this, that you know, um, if you go for manipulation, it is like, you know, you are something else and you show something else. That's manipulation. Okay, and manipulation in the long run sucks much energy out of you. Okay, it sucks many, it's actually dangerous in a sense, because it doesn't stand the test of the time. Manipulation, what happens is, and the moment you go into manipulation, then people actually stop believing in that person. That person stops being an effective leader. Let me tell you that. Okay, and the moment the person stops being an effective leader, I think he is there, he is there for the purpose. Now again, leaders and manager, these two words are used intermittently. Okay, but frankly speaking, for leaders, it is like, you don't need a title. Leader is never a title given. The moment there is somebody looking up to you, the moment there is somebody who feels that I should become like this, means you have a follower. The moment you have a follower, indirectly you are a leader. Manager is nothing but a title which is given, and it is expected that the person should be doing his duties based upon the expected job description. Okay, now people who are not able to do it, sometimes, yes, they go, they go into this manipulative mode, that you behave like that. But remember, people watch you. They know whether you're acting or whether you're original. For example, how many times it has happened in the marketing and sales meet that the marketing manager comes or the chief marketing officer comes and says that, you know what, agle saal humko ye karna hai, humko itna karna hai. He talks about all the goals, and there might be some people sitting in the audience talking about, ये क्या है, बोलने को इसका क्या जाता है, ये तो बोलते रहता है, हमको मालूम है कि क्या करना पड़ता है, ये सब अचीव होगा या नहीं होगा. Getting that? So everything is just for the sake of it. Okay, and when everything is just at the sake of it, that defines the culture of that organization, and that will also in turn define how much that organization will grow in future. I hope I have tried to explain in short.
Sir, I have one question.
I have, first of all, I would like to thank you, sir, for the replying.
Thanks. Yeah.
Number one. Number two, whatever you have explained from the perspective of the R fraternity, let me make more clarity on that. It is not from the R fraternity. A couple of people maybe agree, may not be agree with me. At time what happens, so far training fraternity is concerned, we are being not utilizing we trainer, we don't use it, but we have been utilized. Say you have done a lot of efforts and all, and entire thing has been taken credit and all, they have done it. And now they used to manipulate about their good faces, good biasness kind of thing, and the things has been taken care of. So the training fraternity, which has been mostly deprived, so even in the right situation in Corona, it's an opportunity that everybody is now banking upon, looking upon how to keep employee engaged and all. It's an opportunity, wonderful.
Absolutely.
So that is what the thing which has been mostly deprived. The training fraternity was always never been taken care of, or rather they were not having maturity to understand their ROI.
Yes.
So things are being taken in that way, rather trainer are not using, or the coach mentor is not using. However, they are being utilized. Their intellectual property content and all has been taken care of by all some big shot kind of thing, and they are being deprived, exploited, and taken your content and all that they themselves and gone and all. So fine morning you will get out of the system. Recent example in Oyo, there is a 5,000 employee have been laid off. They all
Okay.
made Oyo big brand. It's a recent startup story. I'm telling you.
Yeah, correct.
I think I'm able to put you some light on that.
Sure. So again, see what happens is like this, that you're a trainer, right?
Yeah.
So see, again, I'm sure what happens is it is very easy to copy, exploit. Definitely much of that is going on. Okay. But one thing I would like to tell you, I normally give an example of Mumbai Dabbawala. Okay. If you look at Mumbai Dabbawala, they have a process, they have technology, and they have people. Many biggies came in, like KFC, McDonald's. They tried to copy their model. Many FMCGs tried to copy their model because their model is not a secret. It is out there in open. Okay. In spite of copying, they have not been able to be as successful as Dabbawala. The reason why they are not is like this, that you can copy my books, you can copy my PPTs, but you cannot copy my delivery. Okay. Delivery, the way you deliver, etc., I think it is unique to each of the trainers here. Okay. And that is one each needs to be proud of it. Yes, definitely it happens. I have seen people are kind of, the way if trainings are conducted in some places that, the PowerPoint after PowerPoint, it is run. And, somebody tick marks, yes, training done. Somebody tick marks, yes, feedback taken, etc., etc. Well, that's a separate story. But yes, if you have something special, I think there is a market to position yourself. Exploitations are there in each and every field. Training is no different. And therefore, yes, I myself am the part of various training forums where people have got this topic as a topic of discussion, getting paid less or whatever it is. Okay. Again, I would say, developing training, a good trainer as a career, a good coach as a career is a marathon. It's not it's a 100-meter sprint over a period of time. And what happens is like this. So for example, I became a trainer after doing my 26 years in the job. So I finally decided to jump into training and consultancy. I'm sure it will take for me again 2-3 years to kind of establish, but very optimistic, very positive about it. So keep faith. That's what I would like to say.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah, what's your name, sir?
Sir, Raghvendra Singh Tomar. I am the Bhopal branch manager, Medics Vashi Marketing.
Yeah, please, sir, go ahead.
Sir, in leadership quality, you mentioned that a person having a good decision quality is one of the quality of leadership. Fine. My question is this.
Good. Can you repeat?
Decision maker.
Decision maker. Okay. Got it.
Yes,
yeah.
you mentioned it, no? My question is this. A person having a quality of problem solving means that he is having a decision quality.
Yeah.
But he's so emotional. He's taking whatever the problem is this. He's taking emotionally. So, or he is a deep thinker. So he is taking whatever the decision by the help of emotionally. So how can I, or a person is just taking that, he's checking that his decision is wrong or right? Means like he is a good decision maker or not?
So what happens is like this. Again, a good leader or a good manager is a combination of 4 or 5 things. Okay. What you have said in that, you have said that he is a good decision maker. But on the other side, if I have understood rightly, your concern is also that sometimes he is too emotional, and maybe he takes those in the emotional setting, which is not required. Okay. Now what happens is, definitely we are not going to get an ideal person who has all qualities. Okay, so that is why we in companies, we have leadership development programs, or we have that leadership development path, talent pipeline. So we select people who are potential leaders. Okay, and then what happens is we make them undergo assessments. We make them undergo assessments in order to show them that, you know what, this is what you are good at, this is what you need to improve upon. And assuming that all these leaders are at a certain maturity level, they try to give their best because they have been given the opportunity to improve upon those qualities. And that's where we ask them to kind of work on those qualities and help them to succeed. Okay, and therefore to become a good contributor to the organization. So this is the path which you can actually try to implement. But if somebody doesn't improve, definitely I think it's company has to make a decision, because everybody has a limitation as to everybody cannot grow up till CEO. There might be limitations that the person has reached his potential, that's it. Beyond this, I don't think we have to think about this person. So it's okay. I hope I have answered this, Raghavendra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Shinde sir, Girish Banker here.
Yes, Girish.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Shinde sir, I wanted to understand emotional intelligence. Can it be developed by a person? Can it be increased over a period of time, or through his actions, can it also get decreased?
Okay. So your answer to your first question, emotional intelligence, can it increase? The answer is yes. Okay, provided I keep on. How do you check that? Generally, I remember in the last organization which I was working, we used to take a 360-degree feedback of the manager. Got it? Because it automatically gives a view about how others look at that person. That also gives a chance to peep into his emotional intelligence quotient or factor. Okay. Now what happens is like this. So if you say, see, an emotional intelligent leader is also a person who has the quality of accepting what he lacks in, and therefore where he needs to improve, and therefore he feels that it is his or her responsibility to work on it. But the last statement which you made, that can emotional intelligence decrease, I think that is the case where the person is very poor in the self-awareness factor himself. Because if the person is very low on that self-awareness part, automatically he will falter in managing self. And therefore the people who are working with him might go into that complaining mode, or he is not proper, hamare saath theek se behave nahi karta hai, and all those things, etc. Okay, and if the person is not able to manage, then how can we say that he is high on emotional intelligence? Of course he is low on emotional intelligence. And that you can give a person a chance to make him aware of where he is lacking, but whether the person wants to improve upon it, accept and improve upon it, or live with it, that's the individual's choice. And therefore then the company decides about the growth path of that person.
So at one given point of time, a person can be at a higher emotional intelligence level, and in some another instance or in some another case, a person can be at a lower level of emotional intelligence.
A same person cannot be high at one point and low at another point. It cannot.
Okay.
It cannot be. No.
Understood. Thank you, Shinde sir.
Thanks, Girish. Good question, actually. Can all of you start your videos? Unless somebody has a question.
No, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this such wonderful session.
I hope this session was useful to each one of you to some extent. Still, if anybody has questions.
Sir.
Yes, it was useful.
Very useful, sir.
Yes.
Very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, you can please connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I am available there. Sunil Shinde. You can type it. You can get my name.
Of course, sir. We will do, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day, sir. Be safe.
Hello.
Sir, this is Amit. If you can address one of the question of mine, that is this EQ, emotional quotient, measurable?
So there are assessments which have come out, and they are quite good. there are paid assessments. They definitely give a peek into, how a person might be good at him or how much is his emotional quotient. And again, assessment is a very tricky job. I normally suggest that, whenever you are giving assessment or whenever any employee is undertaking an assessment, that assessment should be the first thing the person should be doing in his day job. Never undertake an assessment in the afternoon or in the evening or something like that. It should be the first thing which the person should give. And when assessments are such that, they have higher number of questions and limited number of time, there is a reason why it is like that. Because what happens is, in a psychometric assessment, the moment I am reading the question, by the time I finish reading the question, I actually know the answer. And that is the real answer. But if you spend some time in thinking about answering, then probably what that person is answering is not what he actually is. He is basically answering what he would like to be.
True, very true.
Right? And that is where what this, in psychometric assessment, there is one question, but it is answered in 4 different ways. The same question is asked in 4 different ways. It is just to check whether that person is consistent in answering that question. Okay, so yes, they might not be the exact, but they are all indicative, because behavior science is always a subjective science. It is not an objective science. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, you have. I got my answer, and that leads to another question: that how can we increase emotional quotients? Are there any tools or techniques to increase the emotional quotient?
So first of all, if I have to increase emotional quotient, means there are certain points of improvements expected from me, right?
Yes.
Correct. Now, the first step to improve upon something is to accept that I lack that.
Right.
Correct. Now, here also I have seen many people failing. Okay. If I have to improve upon certain quality, I need to accept that I need that I'm lacking, and therefore I need to improve. Okay. Once I accept it, automatically I am motivated to improve upon it. And that is where I said, the tough part is, can a person improve on his emotional intelligence? The answer is yes. Is it easy? The answer is no. It's tough.
Right.
Because I think all said and done, I think everybody of us sitting here will accept that self-discipline is one of the factors many people lack in.
Very
true.
Yeah.
So what are the tools to increase or improve on emotional quotients?
So many, I think in today's world, we look for very quick answers that ye kiya to ye ho jayega. Okay. And let me be very candid in speaking about it. Behavioral changes cannot be with some external tools. They are inbuilt in yours, and therefore you need to kind of, so let's say if you have a habit of, if you have a habit of shouting, you're getting angry. I'm just giving one example. Okay.
Yes.
You know what? There is a very, okay, this is important. If you're interested, I think people can hear this. There is a deep relationship between thinking, feeling, behaving. Thinking, feeling, and behavior.
Yeah.
Everything starts from thoughts. Everything starts from thoughts, thinking. Because what happens is, the moment your thoughts come in, your emotions are according to that thoughts. Okay. And
yes,
जैसे आपके thoughts बनते हैं, वैसा आपका behavior बनता है. To give you an example, why does it happens that when there is an exam tomorrow, उस पहले दिन की रात को आपको खाना भी हजम नहीं होता है. एक रोटी खाते हो बोलते हो बस हो गया, right?
Right.
But the moment the exam has finished, remember the first dinner after the exam, you sit for 2 hours, खाना खा रहे हो आराम से, और ज़्यादा भी खा रहे हो.
सही है.
Why does that happen? Because remember, look at your thoughts the night before your last paper and look at your thoughts. If you are aware of your thoughts, you will exactly understand why your behavior is the way you are behaving.
Right.
To again make things to put it in right perspective, let me give you one statement. Okay, I'll say the statement, try to understand it. If you don't understand, ask me, I'll explain again.
Okay.
Whenever you get angry, it is not the event, it is not the incident which is making you angry, but it is the way you look at that event, the way you look at that incident, which is making you angry.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, correct.
That means the anger is not outside, the anger is inside.
Yes.
Yes.
So the moment you say that uski wajah se mere ko gussa aa gaya, isne mera din kharab kiya, you are fooling yourself.
Correct.
Getting that?
Right.
So a person who has complete control over his thoughts has high chances of being good at self-control factor.
Okay.
Understood. So the first step you mean to say is control over the thoughts.
I would still say
Before control.
Control becomes a very harsh word. I would say regulate.
Before control, self-awareness comes in, correct?
Correct. It's a part of that. Because again, I will tell you, don't expect these changes in a day. Don't put that expectation on yourself. You will be very hard on yourself. Never do that. Give a certain time. Okay. If today you start practicing it, that for example, let's say आप एक रास्ते से जा रहे थे, बाजू से गाड़ी गई, करेक्ट, और उसने आपके ऊपर पानी उड़ा दिया. Okay. What we all know what happens. What is the first thing which comes out of our mouth? Got it?
Yes.
But now imagine this whole picture in slow motion. The moment गाड़ी ने आपके ऊपर पानी उड़ा दिया, what happened in your mind?
What came for the first?
Yes, bus did not do it. They did not do it on purpose. The problem was that thought of uncomfortness. मेरा ड्रेस खराब हो गया, इसका क्या करूं, घर जाना पड़ेगा, why can't it drive properly, etc. All those negative thoughts came in, and the collection of negative thoughts actually resulted in your feelings of anger. Anger is an emotion, and that came out as a behavior, and because of which we normally people tend to use bad words. Are you getting that cycle?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
So hereafter, if you get angry, I'm just giving a method. Hereafter, when you get angry, when you get frustrated because of something that happens, always ask this question to yourself. Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Always ask this question to yourself, that now that this has happened, what can I do next?
Right.
Correct.
Done.
चिल्ला के कुछ फायदा नहीं है.
बिल्कुल.
I hope I have answered that question.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I think I can take one more question.
Would anyone else like to ask any question? So I guess we are out of questions.
Okay. No, I think it was a wonderful crowd. Thank you for patiently listening. And when we give time, of course, it's our responsibility to see that it was a time well spent. I hope everybody has that same feeling that it was a time well spent. Each one of us has got few things about it. Ponder over it, because we normally attend trainings. The next half an hour is very useful if you want to write down what are those 2-3 things, because it is not expected that write everything whatever has been taught. Even if you take away 2 points and try to implement it, I think you are on the path towards improvement. That's all I would like to say. And thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Sindhu sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
So I guess then thank you very much, everyone,
Thank you,
for
thank you,
attending
everybody.
this
Thank you.
session.
Bye.
Thanks.
All of
Thank
you
you,
enjoyed
Valorant.
yourselves. So thank you very much, and hope to see you once again at the Learning Hour tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes, bye.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you.